Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to the show. It's your host, Danny Haifong. As you can see, I am joined by former UN Weapons Inspector, U.S. Marine Corps Intelligence Officer, and current geopolitical analyst and author, Scott Ritter. Scott, thanks so much for joining me again.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, it's been too long in these times, Scott, unfortunately, because we've had an absolutely historic crisis erupt. The U.S. and Israel have launched a war of aggression on Iran, and Iran has launched its retaliation. There are reports that Iran has been gradually escalating its retaliation to include the Fatah, I believe, two older hypersonic missiles now. A lot of the focus has been on both U.S. bases and Israel. I'm just going to pull up some of the footage lately of Israel because there's been a lot of strikes there overnight. Here is just some of the footage that's coming out of there in Tel Aviv and also in Beit Shemesh, which I believe is militarily significant. Here we go. This fell down. So there's a missile hitting there, and then here's in Beit Shemesh.
Oh, shit! It's a motherfucking rocket! Oh, my...
So a lot of this has been going on, Scott, and it has actually led to significant casualties. Of course, Israel has a long history of underreporting, but I believe 12 have died in Beit Shemesh, Tel Aviv. The numbers are a little muddled. Iran is also saying in strikes on Kuwait, military bases in Kuwait, there has been U.S. casualties. The U.S. has denied this. How about you take us to where we are now in this war, now that we have entered day 2?
Well, first of all, I mean, no, this isn't meant as a swipe on you, but the war porn of looking at things blow up and counting bodies is totally irrelevant to what's happening here. This is a regime change operation. And that's all people should be focused about, because everything else is simply a distraction. You can easily match the missile strikes on Israel and on Gulf Arab states with the complete devastation of downtown Tehran that's taking place as we speak, and other Iranian cities as well. The reality is this conflict has unleashed weapons of extraordinary lethality, and each side is going to keep trading blows, and so we're just going to get more of this and more of this and more of this, and it's viscerally pleasing, I guess, in a sort of sickening way to watch this, depending on which side of the aisle you're on. I'm sure the anti-Islamic regime people are just thrilled every time they see a giant cloud of smoke rising from Tehran or other Iranian cities. Tragically, one of those clouds of smoke hit a children's school, and over 100 little girls are dead. But the bloodthirsty warmongers don't seem to care about that. And of course, those who believe that the U.S. and Israeli aggression against Iran is illegal, unjustified, uncalled for, silently cheer every time Iran strikes a blow against their attackers. But this isn't what this is about. This isn't about body counts. This isn't about the accumulation of destroyed facilities, etc. This is about regime change. This is a regime change operation. And this operation began with a decapitation strike against Iran. It was the most predictable decapitation strike in the history of decapitation strikes. I mean, even an analyst as misguided as me, according to many in your chat, called it accurately. I said the first thing that will happen is that they will kill Ali Khamenei. It's an absolutely essential part of their plan, because they want to create the impression of a weakened Islamic Republic, and then they will suppress. And that's what's happening today, is the ongoing bombardment of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Command and Basij and police facilities in and around Tehran and other cities, so that the Iranian people can do the bidding of Donald Trump, who in his 8-minute statement announcing this conflict on his social media platform, Truth Social, said, America will do its job. We will blow these people up, kill these people. But then it's up to you, the Iranian people, to rise up and take matters into your own hand. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You must do this. So we know what's at stake here, regime change. But we also, therefore, see the fatal flaw in the American plan. The first 6 bombs that struck Iran killed Ali Khamenei and a number of Iranian officials that were around him. The first 6 bombs. And those first 6 bombs spelled the doom of the American effort. We lost the war at that moment because we don't understand anything. To all the ignorant people in your chat and in other people's chat and around the world, if you want to discredit Ali Khamenei, you keep him alive. You have him running from bunker to bunker to bunker while Iran is destroyed. You show his impotence as a leader, and then you openly mock this impotence on social media abroad, promoting the strength of those whom you seek to replace him with. For instance, the Shah's son, Reza Pahlavi, could get on the air over and over again and say, "Where is Ali Khamenei? Where is your supreme leader? Hiding in a bunker while you pay the price for his sins." That's how you destroy Ali Khamenei. Do people know anything about the Shia faith? All you haters in the chats out there? Do you know jack squat about it? Do you know what the Battle of Karbala is? 10 October, I think, 688, something like that. Do you know who Hussein is? Hussein, leading the faithful in the Battle of Karbala, was martyred at the hands of, the unbelievers. Do you know who Ali is? Do you know the significance of the last posting on Ali Khamenei's X account, where they invoke Ali? You just made a martyr of one of the most important religious figures in the Shia faith, second only to Sistani out of Najaf, the Twelver. Do you guys even know what Twelvers are? If I say Twelver, the ignorant people out there promoting this conflict, do you even know what I'm talking about? If you don't, that's why we lost. See, the Twelver faith is the largest branch of the Shia faith, and it deals with succession of the caliphate, etc. You guys can Google it. You can look it up, do your own research. But the fact is that you don't know about it. Donald Trump doesn't know about it. Pete Hegseth certainly doesn't know about it. And anybody who planned this attack doesn't know about it. If the goal was to empower the Iranian people who are opposed to the regime of the Islamic Republic to rise up in the streets and take matters into their own hands, look at the streets of Iran today.
I have video, Scott. I have video. I can show.
Show the streets of Iran today.
So here's one video. I believe there's another. Let me see if I have it. Here we go. There's another one here. So all of this is in reaction to the confirmed assassination of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Continue, Scott.
Well, my point is, you just made it impossible for regime change to take place. You've just provided, more legitimacy to the Islamic Republic than you could possibly imagine. And for all the morons out there, and I don't mean to be too insulting, Danny, but I'm in an insulting mood. I was up all day talking about this, reading about this, writing about this, and I've just basically had it up to here with stupidity. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn off your comments, because otherwise I'm just going to go ape shit at some of the stupidity that's there.
It's a large crowd today, Scott. It's a large crowd, so we're going to get a lot of
stupid. Sure, there's smart people in there too, but my God, I've never seen such ignorance in my entire life. So,
right.
And it's not just here; it's everywhere. Judge Napolitano has a very large and active audience, many of whom are just stupid and ignorant, like the many people in this audience. You don't know what you're talking about. You literally don't know what you're talking about. Iran is a constitutional republic, an Islamic republic, but a constitutional republic. And therefore, does anybody realize what just happened? Because constitutionally, when the supreme leader, Vilayat Ifaqi, guardian of the supreme jurisprudence, do you even know what this is, you stupid people? Donald Trump, the leader of the stupid people. Do you know what this is? And do you know what happens when he dies? They form a special committee, the president, the head of the judiciary, and somebody appointed by the Assembly of Experts. Do you guys know what that is? No, you don't, do you? No, you guys are just so stupid. The Assembly of Experts, who will designate the next supreme leader in consultation, but they will appoint somebody on this 3-person committee to continue the government of Iran. Now, the person that they have appointed, again, how stupid can people be? If the purpose of this strike was to create the conditions in which Iran could not have a nuclear bomb, you just killed the one man that stopped Iran from having a nuclear bomb. Has any of you brilliant chatmeisters studied the buildup to the 12-day war in June and what was going on there, the internal discussion and debates taking place in Iran about whether or not they should, in fact, build a nuclear bomb to deter the very kind of action that's taking place today? And at the end of the day, and I got this personally from the Iranian president, who is still alive, he told me in a question I asked him in September, he said, we don't want a nuclear bomb. He said there's two things. One, secularly speaking, we view the path to a nuclear bomb to be suicidal, that we only invite our own destruction. But he said, as importantly, or even more importantly, from a religious standpoint, the supreme leader has issued not one, but 2 fatwas, or religious edicts, saying that the pursuit of a nuclear bomb is incompatible with Islam. And therefore, Iran is not pursuing a nuclear bomb. Do you guys know the guy they just appointed to be the new supreme leader designate? He thinks differently. You see, he actually is a part of the Shia faithful who believe that even though the original fatwa, which was put out by the Ayatollah Khamenei, not Khamenei, but Khomeini, again, idiots, look it up. He said, no, we're not going to pursue it. It's incompatible with Islam. Ali Khamenei continued this, saying this is the desire. But theologists, when you look at the Shia faith, you have the ability. First of all, the thing about the Shia faith, I'm just going to give these ignorant people a little quick class here. You know how you become an Ayatollah in the Shia faith? You spend about 30 to 40 years studying, the Quran, studying the Hadith. But you have a final test you have to pass, you see, because the Shia faith is very democratic. If you want to become a grand Ayatollah, you have to form what's known as a marja. A marja, or you have to become a marja through a hawza. You have to basically rally people to your cause. You have to show yourself to be worthy of the faithful. So you will you will pick an element of Islamic jurisprudence and you will write your interpretation of it, because you are, after all, a great religious scholar. So you pick something, music on the radio. How is it compatible with Islam? And you write this up and you put it out there, and the people read it and they say, wow, I like this, the way this guy thinks. I like the approach this guy's taking. And then they come to your marja and you develop a flock. And if you show that you can develop a flock, a self-sustaining flock, because they rely on donations and the whole thing, then you've passed that hurdle and you can move up. But what happens if you publish your little thesis and the people read it and they go, nah, not buying this one, and you got nothing, you failed the test. Now, Ali Khamenei has said that the fatwa, no nuclear weapons. But the point is, in the Shia faith, the role of Islam in society is not dictated by what happened during the time of Muhammad or Ali or Hussein. It's dictated on modern realities. And so those people who, the Shia understand that you can say one thing in, say, 1700, and it no longer applies today because society has changed, times have changed. And in that debate leading up to the 12-day war, in the reaffirmation by Ali Khamenei and the president that they do not seek a nuclear bomb, there were many theological scholars who were advising Khamenei that you could change your fatwa if the conditions surrounding the issuance of the original fatwa were no longer in play. For instance, if Iran was threatened by Israel, who has nuclear weapons, Iran would be able to reconsider this fatwa and under extraordinary circumstances determine that Iran could have a nuclear weapon. The guy who was making that argument is now the senior Islamic cleric in Iran. You stupid idiots. The man who believes that Iran has a right to have a nuclear bomb is now the guy that interprets the Islamic faith for the Islamic Republic. And the people of Iran are in the streets saying, this is what we want. How stupid can you be? Well, the answer is extraordinarily stupid. And so now we see the reality. This Islamic Republic is not built on the backs of one man. It's built on the back of a constitution that is being applied as we speak. No deviation from the Constitution whatsoever. Things are going exactly the way the Constitution says it must happen, and on the backs of the faithful. And you just empowered the faithful to say, we need nuclear weapons. Now, we're in a very dangerous position, but let's continue down the path of regime change for a second. You see, regime change is a double-edged sword. Donald Trump unsheathed it, along with Israel, and sought to wield it against the Iranians. But it cuts both ways. Donald Trump lost the war on day one, the first 6 bombs that fell on Iran. He lost the war, which means there will be regime change in the United States before there's regime change in Iran. Donald Trump's cult of personality will not survive the midterm elections, because in order to win the midterm elections, Donald Trump needed to deliver a very quick, relatively bloodless war to the American people, one that accomplished what no other American president in 47 years has been able to do. But instead, he's going to go down the path of yet another failed president who's gotten the United States involved in a long, drawn-out war that we won't win. We will lose. We don't know how many lives we will lose, but it'll be devastating. The Iranians will not buckle. There will be no popular uprising in Iran to overthrow the regime. Ali Khamenei is a martyr now, a martyr of the significance of Hussein himself, a martyr that in the eyes of the Shia faithful is the equal to Ali. That's why the last posting on his X account invoked Ali, a symbol of defiance. And so the Shia faithful will rally around Ali Khamenei, a man who was, 88 years old at his death?
I think 86, but close.
86. Had disease. His biggest fear was to die a fragile old man. He said he wanted to go out a martyr. People keep saying, why did he stay in his residence knowing what was going to happen? Why did Hussein lead the charge against the unfaithful in the Battle of Karbala? Because he chose martyrdom. He chose martyrdom as a way of exposing the lack of Islamic adherence on the part of the Umayyad caliphs. He chose martyrdom to protect his followers who were seeking to flee from the battle. Ali Khamenei, this frail old man, didn't want to die hiding in a bunker, allowing his legacy to be tarnished by those who diminished him through that action. Ali Khamenei sat down with a circle of fellow martyrs. Everybody at that meeting knew what was going to happen. And they knew that through their sacrifice, they would elevate the cause of the Islamic Republic back into the heart and soul of the Iranian people, and that is manifest today. Ali Khamenei chose martyrdom. We gave it to him because we are truly the stupidest people on the planet. We don't know anything about the people that we seek to engage in combat with. We disrespect their faith. We disrespect everything about them. And what's going to happen has been actually preordained by American admirals. Trump fired the director of the Joint Chiefs of Staff for having the temerity to say, we don't have enough ammunition to finish this job. Yeah. We're going to start something and we can't finish it. If we don't get this quick revolution in the streets, and the Iranians decide to resist, then we will run out of ammunition before they run out of resistance, and then we lose this war. And when we lose this war, the American people will be awoken to the reality that Donald Trump is not the president of peace, but he is a pro-Israeli warmonger that put Israel above American interests, sacrificed the lives of Americans, slaughtered innocent Iranians. These dead school children will become sort of the poster child of the perfidy of the United States, who once again used diplomacy as a means of setting up a surprise attack. We will never be trusted by anybody again, nor should we. But this is the end of Donald Trump. His regime will collapse in the midterm elections, and he will spend the last 2 years of his presidency being impeached. And if this war goes bad enough, maybe being convicted and being hauled out of the White House in an orange jumpsuit in handcuffs, because that is his faith. Regime change. This is going to be one of the most successful regime change operations in the history of regime change operations, but is literally a self-inflicted wound by Donald Trump on his own political legacy.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate all that, Scott. I think it's really important, especially for American audiences, to hear exactly what you just said. And I want to just pull up, just to emphasize a point that you made. Ali Larijani said it directly to the media that he insisted on living his life normally without any exceptional measures like hiding in bunkers. And when I saw that, Scott, I said, this was a calculated move to
100%.
unite the Iranian people, and it's working. And and what did Ali Khamenei say? Just what was it, a few weeks ago, when there was all kinds of rumors about strikes? He publicly said there was a succession plan, a strategy that's already been put into place very rapidly. And Scott, we see the response. Iran is hitting back. Their operations have not been disrupted. At least this is what I'm seeing. What are you seeing?
No, it's the same thing. I mean, you say their operations aren't being disrupted. Of course they are. Iran's being pounded by the most technologically advanced militaries in the world. The Israeli military, which achieved its technological prominence because of American weaponry, and the United States, which, of course, when you pour in nearly $1 trillion a year, or 1.5 trillion if this budget goes through, you better have advanced weapons. And so we are inflicting death and destruction on Iran as we speak. But Iran is a very large nation, 4 times the size of Iraq, 90 million population, that have now, again, threatening to bomb people to death in a nation that reveres martyrdom is really the dumbest path to take. As you said, Ali Khamenei opted to stay at home and do his business from home, together with people who believe the same thing, because they are leaders. They are going to lead by example. And the example for Iran to set right now is their willingness to absorb the damage inflicted by the evil modern day Umayyads, Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, because they believe in the end that they will emerge victorious. So we are blowing things up, but the Iranians are responding, and they're responding in a way that took everybody off guard, because I think most people thought that Iran would respond directly to Israel, and then there would be a sort of an escalation ladder taking place as they started to strike one American base, then another in an effort to get the United States and Israel to the negotiating table. But Iran literally just went out and hit everything. And even the Trump administration, we didn't expect this to happen. They've hit us in a way that nobody's ever hit us before, and they're sustaining that. Yes, we are blowing things up, but if we don't understand that for the last 20 years, Iran has been preparing for this very scenario, that Iran understands better than we do what we do, they will take losses, but they will continue to launch, as we're seeing now. And they have prepared stockpiles that are successfully hidden, sequestered, spread out, that they'll be able to draw upon for months. We, on the other hand, will run out of ammunition in weeks. And again, we look at regime change, just to look at coming at from a targeting perspective. Again, for the ignorant masses in your chat and everybody else's chat, I used to do this for a living, so shut up and listen. When we prepare a strategic air campaign of this nature, we have objectives that we want to reach. We say that by this period of time we should achieve this results. Then we move to this, move that, and it's sort of a campaign of sequential events that build up on one another till you get to the culminating moment, which is the collapse of the enemy that you were targeting. We have a finite amount of resources. So we take these resources and we allocate them accordingly. We put them on, for instance, the first phase, the first goal objective to achieve that. And then we take these resources and reapply them, part of a planned process to achieve the next and the next and the next and the next. But what happens, and it happened in the Gulf War, where, for instance, we had resources, 2 F-15E Strike Eagle squadrons that were applied to one of the primary phase 1 objectives of suppressing Iraqi ballistic missile launch capability in Western Iraq. And we send them out to strike fixed arm launchers and hit up mobile launch sites. And according to the plan, we were supposed to have achieved all this on the second day. First day of primary strikes, second day of restrikes, and then we have wipe that target deck off, and we move these squadrons over to their next mission assignments, which await them outside of Basra and outside of Baghdad. But we didn't destroy anything. The missiles kept launching. So we had to keep these F-15E squadrons on target and reinforce them, diverting resources away from the other target decks to go down this route, and it degraded the strategic air campaign. But at that time, we had sufficient resources. We had a lot of airplanes, a lot of bombs. So we just lengthened the strategic air campaign, and we rode out this problem set. Here we have a strategic campaign that is crippled from the start by insufficient resources. The admiral that was fired said, we don't have enough airplanes and we don't have enough bombs, so we can't do what you want us to do. But the others came in and said, no, we've planned this very carefully. We are going to kill a bunch of people. The first 6 bombs are going to kill Khamenei and 40 people, and that will cascade the collapse of the regime, and then we move to suppression of the security forces, and then we achieve regime change, and we win. And Trump can do his stupid little Trump YMCA moronic dance. So they fired a whole bunch of missiles to achieve regime change. If you heard what we just said, I hope the audience is listening. The regime has not collapsed. It has fallen on the Constitution, and the president of Iran sits at the head of a 3-person succession committee until they elect a new supreme leader. There is the Assembly of Experts, which, by the way, is democratically elected. I want to remind all you haters out there that Iran is probably the most successfully functioning democracy in the Middle East. And they elect the Assembly of Experts, who then, through the will of the people, monitor the supreme leader and will select the new supreme leader. And the regime continues. It's there. It's viable. It is functioning. We failed in regime change. So all of those resources that we used up on day 1 are gone. And now we have to reallocate resources to continue hunting down the regime. And so we have already put ourselves behind the 8 ball. And we're chasing something that we'll never catch up to because we don't have time. We don't have time because we don't have the resources. We don't have the ammunition. We're burning through our ammunition at rates that we'll never be able to replenish. And it's not just what we're doing against Iran, what Iran is doing against us. By continuing to fly these attacks, they are sucking up resources. Over 1,000 Iranian missiles were launched on day 1. The average expenditure rate for the air defense is 3 to 4 missiles per missile. That means that we have burned through 3,000 to 4,000 interceptor missiles. And the missiles are still flying. The Iranians have planned a campaign that will last months. We have the ability to sustain this for maybe another week. And then we run out of missiles. We got nothing left. Nothing. And just again, for all you genius geopolitical analysts out there, when I say nothing, that means we have nothing in the Pacific. What would happen if China decided they wanted to take Taiwan right about now? We got nothing. All our cruise missiles are being chewed up. All our interceptor missiles are gone. What would happen? I mean, Russia's not going to do it, but if Russia wanted to make a move on Europe, we got nothing. Nothing. This is the stupidity of this. We gambled everything to achieve what? To make Israel happy. The Iranians had agreed to, there's a wonderful post on X written by one of the diplomatic advisors to the ruler of Oman, who was managing this negotiation. And he talks about what had been accomplished. And he said that the deal that was agreed to by the Iranians got rid of their nuclear enrichment program in everything but name only, meaning that if you wanted to ensure that Iran would never have a nuclear weapon, this was the deal. This would have been Donald Trump's great peacemaking diplomatic victory. Peace through strength. Threaten an attack. Get the Iranians at the table and get them under pressure to agree to something so fundamental that you could stand up legitimately and say, there will never be an Iranian nuclear, because there are no sunset clauses in this, unlike the JCPOA, which aged out. This one is permanent forever. And the Iranians had agreed to it. It was in writing. They were moving to a signing ceremony. This guy talks about how he ordered 12 Mont Blanc Meisterstück pins for the signing ceremony at $620 each. But we weren't serious about the nuclear program. We're using it as a subterfuge to do the Israeli-pleasing regime change operation, which has now failed. But it not only failed in terms of failing to get rid of the regime, but that nuclear program could very well become active. I want to ask all the morons in your chat, what is the status of the 60% enriched uranium that we failed to destroy in Donald Trump's first attack against Iran? We didn't know where it is. We don't know where it is. Do you think we're getting it today? And if we don't get it, do you think Iran may have, over the period of time, sequestered away enough final manufacturing capacity to convert that into at least 5 or 10 nuclear bombs the size of Hiroshima? But you don't know, do you? Because you're stupid. You're as stupid as the president is. I'm sorry, Danny. I shouldn't be insulting your audience or any audience, but I'm so fed up because it is because of the ignorance of people like this that the president believes he has legitimacy to do what he's doing. We have stupid people out there that don't think through the problem, who are ignorant of the problem. And, I'm just fed up with them because, we are looking at a world that's going to hell. The defeat of America, as pleasing as it may be to, the pro-Iranian community out there, if you're an American patriot, you can't want this. You cannot be seeking this. If you're somebody like me who actually took the oath, swore allegiance, put on the uniform, and went to war for my country, you can't celebrate anything that results in the death of the men and women who put on that uniform, and yet they're dying. The Defense Department, I call it the Defense Department. Legally, that's what it is. It's not a War Department. That title doesn't exist under law. But the Defense Department has acknowledged at least the deaths of at least 3 American servicemen, they said, in combat operations against Iran. We don't know if they died on the ground in Iran because there's ongoing raids taking place that's outside the scope of what most people are talking about. Special operation forces are on the ground. I think there was an attempt to raid one of those underground missile cities that didn't go well, and we had to withdraw. So there's this activity. We can say, like I do, that I don't want the Iranian regime to collapse, but I will never cheerlead in favor of the death of any American at all, ever. And yet that's the situation we're in right now, where Americans are dying. And then again, how can you cheerlead for what America is doing? Because one of the first missiles that struck Iran hit a secondary school, and over 100 children, schoolgirls, ages between 6 and 12, are dead. Imagine being a mother who sent their children to school that morning because you believed there would be peace because the United States was engaged in a legitimate negotiation. Marco Rubio announced he was traveling to Israel on Monday, and therefore, of course, there can't be a war if Marco Rubio is traveling. So in good consciousness, he said, I'm sending my children to school so they can become educated, become have a brighter future. And you send them to school only to have an Israeli missile hit that school and kill virtually everybody inside that school. You can't celebrate this. You can't celebrate any aspect of this. And yet here we are because of the stupidity of a president who is guided by the stupidity of his political faithful, who are as ignorant as the day is long about the world we live in.
Yeah, no, I mean, anyone, the Donald Trump administration, of course, all the warmongers, the hawks, they've put, regardless of whatever you think of the U.S. bases there, whether they should be there or not, they've now put the U.S., everyone who's there, they've put them under heavy fire. I mean, this is what's happening. And maybe you can also comment on this air defense question, Scott, because there are videos everywhere coming out. Where does this factor in? I'll just show one. This is Bahrain, and we know that Iran has taken particular attention to the facility there, to the naval facility there. Here's just the image of it. And I just want to play this. It's, I believe, an image of interceptors failing to intercept Iranian missiles, because this is just being shown all over the internet, and I think and all over social media. And I know you've talked a lot about air defense systems in the past, but this is ostensibly what's going to protect those who have been put in harm's way by the Trump administration. And it doesn't look like, if Iran were to escalate even further, it doesn't look like these are working very well.
Well, again, I think the first day, 33% of the Iranian missiles fired against Israel hit their targets. Now, I'm not too good at math, but the implication is that 67% did not, and that they were intercepted. So we are intercepting missiles. We intercepted missiles during the 12-day war. We intercept missiles all the time. But the thing is, when you fire a missile that cost Iran, I don't know, $500,000 to make, and we have to fire 3 to 4 interceptor missiles that cost us, $3 to $4 million each. That's a mathematical equation that we're not going to win. Also, when Iran has a very large number of these relatively inexpensive missiles, and we have a finite number of these very expensive interceptors. When you look at these attacks, you see explosion taking place in the air. Now, some of these explosions are taking place on the safety mechanism of the warheads after they've missed their target, but others reflect the fact that they are intercepting the missiles. Some of the film that you've seen of burning missile bodies, fully fueled missile bodies coming to the ground and exploding, are reflective of the fact that they were successfully intercepted by an interceptor missile. And these are the debris coming down. So we shouldn't create the impression that these interceptor missiles don't work. They do work. They are successful, but they're not 100% successful. And the Iranians have developed tactics and procedures that basically allow them to overwhelm these defenses and successfully strike. So when they plan an attack, it's just the same with the Russians when they do their drone attacks and missile attacks against Ukraine. You flood the zone with capability. You lead with your cheaper stuff to absorb most of the interceptors, and then you overload the radars, confuse the radars, and then you penetrate in and you destroy the targets you want with the final phase of the attack. And this is what the Iranians are doing against the Israelis. They are flooding the zone, getting launches, confusing radars, and then penetrating and hitting. So we're getting that. Now, if we were to weight the value of the targets intercepted, if there was a way I could find out exactly what the Iranians launched and at what segment, and then you could weigh it, meaning that, let's say they have 5 Fatatus, in the end, they have 5 targets they want to hit, but to guarantee that these 5 penetrate the defenses, they fire 40 older missiles, and they come in with a bunch of drones and stuff. Do you give the same weight and value to the missile that wants to hit a target that you do to the decoy missile? No, you don't. So if we did a mathematical balancing act here, we would see that we can speak of 33% intercepts, but when it comes to the interception of the missiles that count, it's a 0% intercept, or close to 0% intercept, which means that the Iranians have basically nullified the Israeli-American missile defense system.
Yeah, and Scott, how long can the U.S. and Israel go on with this war of aggression? Because Israel is talking about as long as it takes. I believe the Trump administration told the Western mainstream media that there will be at least through the week. They're going to continue onward. And I want to just pull up what Lindsey Graham said, reiterating word by word Donald Trump's basically promise that, U.S. troops are going to die, but it's noble, Scott. And I think this is what is particularly concerning.
And if we lose anybody in this operation, they will have died a noble death, because they will have risked their lives and sacrificed their lives to make us safer here at home. The command.
So that's That's the messaging, Scott, which is astounding messaging too, because this war was very unpopular before it started, and the Trump administration, Donald Trump himself, promised that he said Americans will likely die in this, and of course Lindsey Graham, unsurprisingly, parroting the same. But what's your reaction? How long can they go on like this with this war of aggression, and what do you make of these kind of statements?
First of all, I just find it grotesquely amusing that these fat perfume princess named Lindsey Graham is talking about the nobility of sacrifice. He was a lawyer. The biggest risk he ever made to his life while serving was dying of an infected paper cut. He wouldn't know personal courage or individual courage because he will never allow himself to be in a situation where he'll be confronted with the need to develop that. This man is a disgusting pig of a human being. And I just hope that he gets the fate that he deserves. And in the old days, we tar and feather him and lead him out of town and throw him into a bee's nest. Who knows what'll happen? But this man does not deserve to die a peaceful death after living a long and fulfilling life. He deserves to rot in hell. He's a horrible, horrible American, a horrible, horrible human being. But again, the nobility of death. First of all, the nobility of death is a notion that exists in theory only. Ask me why I joined the military. Why'd you join the military, Scott? Oh, I'm glad you asked. I joined to serve my country. I joined because my father put in 26 years of service as a United States Air Force officer. I lived during the Cold War. I grew up believing that the communist threat from the Soviet Union and China was real, and that there was a necessity for American patriots like myself to volunteer, put on the uniform, and defend my country, defend my Constitution, defend my way of life from these people. And I trained very hard, and the training was very realistic. But while you're training, what you're developing is muscle memory, so that if you're under stress, you will perform to an adequate standard and you won't freeze, you won't yield. But you're training in an environment that, if you make a mistake, it's like, oops, okay, I'll learn from that. But when you experience war, when you understand the consequences of war, the consequences of actions, that people die and people don't come home, places are destroyed. I played a very heavy role in targeting Iraq during the first Gulf War. Now, I could have done what most people did, view it from long distance, and then go home to America and pat myself on the back and say I did a hell of a great job. But I then went on to serve for 7 years as a chief weapons inspector in Iraq. I led inspection teams, and in the first 2 years of my time, I spent most of my time inspecting destroyed facilities, trying to figure out, did we get what we were trying to get when we bombed this facility? Did the Iraqis recover anything? One of the places we struck was the Ministry of Information. And I remember, we struck it as a command and control target and all that good stuff. But I remember going to that site and inspecting it, and we had asked that the people who worked there be present to answer any questions. And there was a young girl, a journalist in her late 20s, standing there, and she was literally shaking in fear and crying and sobbing and shaking. She was inconsolable. She was afraid of me. When I was trying to have a conversation with her, she just literally couldn't look at me. She was shaking. She was fearing. And I said, my God, what have we done? What have we done? We didn't blow up a building. We destroyed a human being. We didn't kill her, but we've ruined her. We've broken her. Is this what we fought for? Is this what we were trying to accomplish? And it's moments like that that repeated over and over and over again. I remember, it's sort of a famous incident, but F-15Es, blew up 7 targets that General Schwarzkopf and General Glosson, head of the air campaign, briefed to the world that were Scuds. And I remember I said that they weren't, and I got into a famous pissing contest with Schwarzkopf that got me fired. It went up to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Colin Powell, who eventually sided with me, and I got my job back. But the point is, this was a big deal, the lies that were told. And I remember in December of 1991, leading an inspection element into that area, and we came upon this very site. And I remember looking at the oil tankers on the ground and reflecting that it wasn't just oil tankers, but this was right next to a truck rest stop We blew up the oil tankers, incinerating the drivers, men who had families who were simply driving oil to make money to feed their families, and we killed the people in the rest stop. We burned them to death because the oil tanks ruptured and they burned that facility down. And you just have to sit there and say, why did we do this? What was the purpose of it all? War is not the answer. This is the one thing that people like Lindsey Graham will never understand because they've never experienced it. They don't understand it. They don't understand the costs. They glorify death. There's nothing glorified about death. For all you Americans out there that think that you are, supporting this war, we fought a 20-year war against Al-Qaeda, the global war on terror. How many of you have gone to the VA to look at the men and women who lost their limbs, people who have to poop into a colostomy bag? Will you change that bag for them? Will you take them out? Will you give them a quality of life because their families have abandoned them? Men who once had a fiance, but the fiance couldn't put up with what that man had become and abandoned that man. He's now alone, an alcoholic, a drug addict. Are you going there to comfort him? Are you going there to talk to them, get him out of their boot and give him a quality of life? Or have you forgotten them? And the answer is you've forgotten them. You don't even think about them. You don't wake every morning thinking one thought about these people. I do every morning. To me, the yellow ribbon on the back of the car, which I took off a long time ago because I realized the emptiness of the sentiment. We support our troops. No, we don't. We support our troops only as they are alive and they represent something glorious. But we never support the troops when they come home in body bags, or worse, they come home broken psychologically and physically. We abandon them. We look away from them. We pretend they don't exist. And yet Lindsey Graham wants to encourage a war that kills even more Americans. Lindsey Graham is a despicable human being. And anybody who supports that sentiment, you know what I think of you. I'm trying to control my language, Daddy, but you know what I think of you. We now have put ourselves in that same population set. We're not the good guys, people. We're the bad guys, and we will go down in history as the equivalent of the Nazi Germans, as the samurai Bushido embracing Japanese. We are the MAGA cult, the people that threw away our Constitution and embraced this cult of personality that has led us down this path of death and destruction.
Yeah. Well, I've watched the movie, Scott, Dead to Rights, which was a Chinese film about the Japanese war of aggression on China, and gotta say, what they did in China, what they did in Nanjing, and the Nanjing
the rape of Nanking. Yeah, my God. Ooh.
Oh my God.
But what the Germans did, I was just in Belarus in November. I went to Katyn, the village. Yes, the village was burned. Yes, a couple hundred people were burned to death, but it was part of an overall plan, Plan Ost, by the Germans to literally depopulate Belarus. When I say depopulate, I don't mean deport, I mean slaughter. The systemic murder of millions of Slavs so they could make room, Lebensraum, for the German soldiers and officers who would come back from conquering the Slavs, and they'd have a place to take their families with a lot of living room and the beauty and the grace of the fields. What the Japanese did to the Chinese, what the Germans did to the Slavs, what the Germans did to the Gypsies, what they did to the Jews, what they did to this is the same mindset we have for anybody who's promoting conflict against Iran. Iran is a nation of 90 million people. Unlike half of the morons in your chat, I have been to Iran. I've met them. What a wonderful people they are. And the people, if you don't know anything about Islam, shut up about Islam. If you want to sit here and talk about, Osama bin Laden and the cult of Wahhabism, feel free to do so. But do not conflate Shiism or the rest of Islam with this cult of death. Islam is a peace-loving religion. I have dealt with these people. Some of the most peaceful people I've met are imams of both Shia faith and Sunni faith. I've been to Chechnya, and I've been in the Grand Mosque, and I've spoken to the imam there about the role Islam played in creating peace between Chechnya and Russia. If this was this cult of death, it was only a cult of death because the CIA was exporting Wahhabism into Chechnya, perverting the minds of select clans. But the mainstream Chechen, a Muslim, is a person of peace who believes in peaceful coexistence. And when you take a look at right behind me, that flag right here, the signature on that flag is Abdi Aladinov, Lieutenant General of the Russian Army, a Chechen. But that flag, the flag of the Akhmat Special Forces, is a flag that has Orthodox Christian cross and the Islamic moon and star together on one flag, one banner that shows how they are united to support the cause of Russia. Don't tell me you know anything. If I hear another stupid Sarah Adams remark about the evil nature of Islam, Laura Loomer, and all that, these are people who are ignorant. They don't understand Islam. They don't understand anything. If you want to talk about a religion of hate, just look at Christianity. Lindsey Graham is an hospitable Christian. I mean, again, I'm sorry. I just saw something in the chat. I just wish I could reach in, pull some people out, and let them say it to my face. None of you have the courage to say it to my face. None of you have the courage to say it to my face. That's who you are, keyboard warriors. I'm sorry. I was up all night talking about this issue. This issue has me pissed off like you won't believe. I shouldn't be taking it out on you because you are kind enough to give me.
No, Scott. Look, I really appreciate it. Look, we gotta get it out. I understand. I was up all night as well. So every night since this war has begun, but continue.
Well, it's going to, you asked me a question. How long is it going to continue?
Yeah.
It'll continue till we run out of ammunition. According to some people, the original war plan was 96 hours, 4 days of sustained nonstop.
That's what Israel said. That's what Israel said.
Yeah. And, the goal here, just so people, again, I was quite clear before this war began that the United States has tremendous military power. And if you think we're out of the, that the war is already lost, when we speak of military force, let's say Iran is an engineering problem, a cube of reinforcing angles and such. We bombed the cube on day one. The cube is still intact, but we've weakened a joist here. We've weakened a joist there. We bombed them on day two, and the cube is still intact, but now internal collapse has taken place on some of the supporting beams. We bomb on day three, and now the thing is shaking. We bomb on day four, and it collapses. So the fact that we're entering day two, and you're looking at Iran saying it's a cube, don't be misguided. There is significant harm being done right now to the Iranian people and to the Iranian military and to Iran in general. And this harm is pre-programmed into an air campaign designed to last at a minimum of 96 hours. Now, I believe that we have additional phases planned. This first 96 hours is designed to achieve a result. One of the results is decapitation, which, unless they miraculously kill everybody between now and the 96-hour window, they have failed because Iran has reconstituted. Not only that, the streets are filled with people who aren't shouting death to Khamenei. They're shouting Khamenei is dead. Two different things. And one is glorifying the death of somebody that you hate. The other one is rallying around the cause of a martyr who you worship. And so, we've totally screwed the pooch on that one. But at the end of 96 hours, I think the planners will come together. I don't know how much of a pause they're going to give, but the idea is to give a pause for the Iranian government to surrender and turn over power. But then they will seek to continue to the next phase. And I think that we probably have 3 to 4 phases, 96-hour phases built into the system before we run out of ammunition. And so, that's 4 days with a pause 5. We're looking at, again, basic Marine math, 15 to 20 day campaign. That's their plan. The Iranians, on the other hand, are preparing for a campaign that will last months. Yeah. They have planned this thing out to last months. So, unless we get what we want to get, and again, I believe that I'll say it again, we lost the war of the first 6 bombs that we dropped on Iran because we don't have a clue about what we're doing. We turned a man who, if I were advising the president, I would have said, keep Khamenei alive. Kill his family. I know you guys are going to say, what is Scott talking about? I'm saying if I were advising the president, which assumes that I believe in what the president's doing, I don't. So I'm putting on my evil hat. My evil hat would have said, kill his family so that he's exposed as a hypocrite, a man who was willing to let his daughter and daughter-in-law die to let his granddaughter die. We killed a grandson or a granddaughter. We killed somebody. That's what we do. We just kill kids. We don't care. But you expose him as this hypocrite who's willing to hide while he let others die for him. And then you start putting out all the evil propaganda you want. I would even sit there and literally, come up with CGI crap to, AI-driven imagery to show him to be a pedophile and to show him to be a drunkard and to show him to be a hypocrite. And I would flood the airwaves with this stuff. Secret images from when Khamenei made a visit to Berlin and he went to a whorehouse back in 1982. And people say, well, he never did that. Well, there's a picture here. It is so long ago. You've clouded up. And you do this and you destroy the image of the man. You destroy what he stands for. I would have flooded the airways with imams coming in who talk about the evil nature of the theocracy, to point out every mistake every Iranian theocrat has ever made. There are films out there of religious figures in Qom going to bed with hookers because there's this thing where you can have a marriage for a day or something. I don't know, but they do it and you film it and you put that out there and you destroy the viability of this by attacking human frailty in hopes that people transfer faith over to human frailty and abandon their faith. This is what you do. This is how it works. And then you destroy the security mechanisms, et cetera. But you have to destroy people's confidence and belief and faith. We didn't do that. We made a martyr on day one. We made a martyr. We allowed this man through his ex-post to exit a hero, exit a man in literally a man of the equivalent of Ali, of Ali. This man we've elevated to the equivalent of Ali, which is sort of the heart of the 12-verse Shia faith concept. We lost. We're stupid, but there's going to be a lot of death and destruction between now and then. We have a lot of ammunition. That ammunition is capable of doing extraordinarily horrific damage, to include, again, because we don't care. If our intelligence is so bad that we mistook a children's secondary school for a target of relevance on day one, imagine how bad our intelligence is going to be when we get near the end of this campaign and we haven't achieved our objectives. Guys, I've been there. I've done that. I'm telling you, the desperation that existed at the end of the Gulf War when Iraq continued to fire missiles against Israel and we weren't interdicting them, we got so desperate that we basically threw away all rules. We were blowing up school buses because they were long enough to carry a Scud missile. We blew up Bedouin camps because the heat signature of the goats they put inside during those freezing nights created a long oval shape that could have been, was a Scud missile, and we blew it up. We slaughtered people. We blew up truckers. We blew up families. We killed everybody in the name of trying to interdict Scuds. Do you understand how desperate we're going to be at the end of this campaign when we are running out of bombs and the Iranians haven't run out of missiles and they're still firing missiles against Israel, which now has absorbed well over the 700 missiles that Netanyahu said was the maximum capacity of absorption.
It's only been 24 hours, mind you. We have to put that in. It's only been a day.
So in a day. And so, the fact is, we're going to start, we will drop our standards if we ever had any in this conflict. The destruction of a children's school suggests that we don't. And we will be killing everything. We will be slaughtering Iranian civilians because we are so desperate and unwilling to accept failure, defeat, that we will go down wielding a sword that will be laying innocent lives low till the last bomb is dropped. I only have to say Gaza for you to understand the lack of moral compass that exists in these military planners' minds, Israel and American. This is not going to end well for the United States. In addition to Donald Trump losing his political credibility and hopefully his political legacy collapsing in a midterm election that sees him and his party routed to the extent that he can not only be impeached but convicted. For all the people out there that basically don't like Donald Trump, stop shouting at me and make sure you vote enough Democrats in November to convict him. Pick weak Republican senators and topple them. Because the goal here isn't to say we support the Democrats. The goal here is to say we want to punish Donald Trump. We want to break Donald Trump. You need to break the sickness of American society that elected Donald Trump. And you can only do that. Remember what I said about Ali Khamenei? Don't make a martyr out of him. Don't shoot him in Butler, Pennsylvania. That was stupid. What you want to do is expose him as the pedophile that he is, the Epstein supporter that he is, and the horrific man that he is. And you want him to be impeached by Congress, and you want him to be convicted by Congress. And you want his legacy not to be a man who won 2 elections, but a man who's the only president to serve time in prison because he's a traitor to his fucking country.
Yeah, well said, Scott. Well, perhaps if you could help the audience understand now, because what you are portending, what you are forecasting, I believe is very much, of course, in the realm of possibility, even if we don't have a crystal ball, that this desperation will go to fever pitch. If Iran, what it's saying, it's prepared for years to fight, that means Iran is at least confident in what it has in its stockpiles, what it has in its capabilities to fight for as long as you predicted, Scott. This could go on. The bombing could go on. So my question to you, Scott, is what, if you could maybe assess and help the audience understand what Iran's response has been and what it could be, given that there are also, Iran is saying that, yeah, you're going to continue to hit us, and we are going to continue to also escalate and show weapons that you haven't seen before. Things I don't even know what these weapons are. I guess I want, if you could, for you to help the audience understand what the U.S. is confronting as it goes down this very perilous path.
Well, first of all, we don't know what weapons the Iranians have. That's the beauty of them saying we're going to unveil weapons that you don't know anything about. So it leads to speculation, and I would believe that we are reading far too much into that than reality suggests. I think when they say weapons that you don't believe we have, I think the Iranians have developed an Oreshnik analog, basically a medium-range hypersonic missile that can deliver, the kind of Oreshnik type kinetic warheads. I'm fairly confident it's not the Oreshnik. They don't have the Oreshnik. They have the Iranian analog to the Oreshnik. And I think that's one of the missiles that will be revealed. And we'll see it in all of its glory one night, because half of the Oreshnik is the psychological value of watching these projectiles come down, scream down at the speeds that create this horrific roar and impact on the ground. It's psychologically devastating. Imagine the Iranians delivering a dozen of these 3 weeks into this war, when we're running out of ammunition and they just unveiled a new weapon. So I think this is probably what we're looking at as they unveil new missiles. They might even unveil a few missiles of significant range that can strike targets in Europe. I would imagine that if the Iranians could, they would take out the bases in Europe, Lake and Heath, maybe some bases in Germany, take out Sofia Airport in Bulgaria. Sorry, Bulgarians, you shouldn't have allowed American airplanes to land on your runways, but strike European targets as well. Make Europe pay a price for the sin of supporting this illegal war of aggression. But I also think you're going to see them unveil new weapons, hypersonic weapons of great accuracy. But there's also other things at play here. Yes, the United States provided Israel with the targeting of Ali Khamenei. But let's think about it for a second. If Ali Khamenei wanted to be a martyr, wouldn't he make targeting easy? I mean, how much easier does it get? It wasn't the greatest intelligence coup in the world to have Ali Khamenei at home in his residence.
Exactly.
With other people having advertised that they're meeting. This isn't the greatest intelligence coup in the world. This doesn't mean that the CIA and Mossad have a spy on the inside and all this stuff. It means that Ali Khamenei played the game and said, kill me and lose the war. And we took the bait. But now we look what happened in Israel. Beit Shaim, I think, is the name of the play. I'm not an expert on it, pronouncing Hebrew names. But the building that was struck was apparently hosting a very high-level Israeli military conference in great secrecy, a conference that, because of the sensitivity of the subject matter, the personnel broadcast, they probably didn't pick the location until that morning. So imagine You pick the location, and that's transmitted to the Iranians, who are able then to take a weapon system and have it launched in time to strike that building while the people are inside with great accuracy. If you're an Israeli and you're not scared to death by that, then you're not very smart. The Iranians have been hitting targets in Israel that these targets are designed to send a signal. They don't just hit targets of relevance. They hit them in a way that shows the Israelis that the Iranians know everything. Everybody talks about the Mossad penetrating the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Command. The Israelis had been penetrated by the Iranians. And I don't know how they're doing it, through technical means, human intelligence, a combination thereof. But the bottom line is Israel's being taken apart piece by piece by piece. And it's done deliberately. The Iranians are some of the smartest people on the planet when it comes to understanding the world they live in. Just again, to give you an example, in 2006, during that short war that was fought between Israel and Hezbollah, Israel sent some of their best special forces to Lebanon to fight Hezbollah, and they're fighting for this one particular village. And I believe it was Sayat Matkal was getting ready to launch this attack to take out certain places. Matkal uses advanced frequency hopping tactical radios that are encrypted real time. So right off the bat, let's say it's a single channel, me talking to you, Danny. The signal is going to be encrypted, which means whoever intercepts it is just going to get digital garbage. And normally you have to capture that signal, handshakes and everything, take it back and have a computer process it. And a couple days or weeks later, depending on the effectiveness of the decryption programming, you can listen to what happened. But now we can complicate that because we have frequency hopping, 5 to 12 different channels, just pop, 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 pop. So if we're intercepting, we have to know what channel it is. And if we get on one, it instantly goes in. These are happening, multiple switches per second, which makes literal real-time interception and exploitation impossible, except that the Iranians were intercepting, decrypting these signals in real time, and then hacking into the signal and having a Hebrew voice operator who exactly mimics the voices of the Israeli commanders, using the code names, using their call signs that are supposed to be, only known to a handful. And they triggered an ambush by breaking in to this signal, giving the call sign of the commander and giving the order for execution. And Sayat Matkal, the Delta Force of Israel, stepped off into an ambush and got the crap knocked out of them. That's who we're dealing with here. The Iranians are that good. They hijacked the Beast of Kandahar. Again, hacking into a signal, satellite signal from Nellis Air Force Base to the drone, encrypted, hacking into it, stealing that drone. So these Iranians are very, very good. They're working with Hezbollah, who has, as I said, great capabilities. And the Iranians apparently are inside the Israeli decision-making cycle. And this attack on this building proves that. So now the Israelis are scared to death. You can have them out there. We're doing this. We're going to build a bridge to Iran, and our airplanes are going to go there, and they're going to come back and go there, and they come back, and there's no. Yeah, go change your diapers while you're saying that, because you know that the Iranians are onto you, and at some point in time, the next missile's going to hit your damn building, and you're going to die. Your bloated corpse is going to be pulled from the rubble. And that's the fate that many Israelis are recognizing is their future if they can't win this war. This is why Israel stopped Donald Trump from pulling the trigger back in January. They said, don't do it because we can't win this thing. And they also said, don't start this thing unless you can guarantee victory. And this is where we come to the last phase of regime change, because the advice I just put out there was the advice of Israelis who may not be friendly to Iran. They may promote greater Israel, but they're realistic. Benjamin Netanyahu, when he came to the United States, and I said it at the time, I'm just on record saying it, so I'll say it again. He came to the United States to tell Donald Trump to work with Donald Trump on how to use diplomacy as a means of setting up the next attack.
Yeah.
It wasn't about setting the conditions of a nuclear negotiation or anything. It was how to use diplomacy to set up, because immediately Donald Trump said, we're entering into negotiations. And they began that process. They had made the decision that they were going to attack and when they were going to attack. And that decision was made back then. Benjamin Netanyahu did this against the advice of his senior military commanders. He said, we can't pull the trigger until we have guarantees. And he came back and said, I have the guarantees. The United States is willing to do this. Now, one of the things that happened is after he told his people that and they began preparing for this war, which they would initiate, the Joint Chiefs of Staff started saying, well, maybe we don't have a plan. Maybe we don't have enough ammunition. And that created problems. But Netanyahu overrode these people and said, no, we're going forward. So now when the air campaign starts to peter out and Israel's run out of ammunition, run out of interceptor missiles, Israel's getting pounded to death. The United States can't finish the job because we're out of ammunition. What do you think the political future of Benjamin Netanyahu is going to be? Do you think that he's going to emerge as the modern day, David Ben-Gurion, a hero, or is he going to be reviled as a despicable, cowardly liar who led Israel down the path of destruction? So in addition to Donald Trump being toppled, Benjamin Netanyahu could very well be toppled too. This may be one of the greatest regime change operations in the history of regime change operations, but not the way those who envisioned it. And we can go on and on and on. For instance, Bahrain. I bring Bahrain up. I've traveled extensively through the Middle East, but I spent an awful lot of time in Bahrain. That was where the UN weapons inspectors would go to train up before we deployed to Iraq for our missions. And I'm very familiar with the Shia of Bahrain and the Khalifa family that governs Bahrain. A good friend of mine was my deputy commander, and he, we had a unique kind of team, a bunch of alpha males doing some alpha male stuff. And when they came back to Bahrain, they like to let off steam like only alpha males can do. And they had befriended the Gulf Air Stewardess Academy. They knew the head of the academy. And so these guys would all get dates with the Gulf Air Stewardesses. And they'd go out and they were just having the time of their life. I mean, they were living the life. But you'd sit down with these Gulf Air Stewardesses and have meaningful conversations with them. And you realize just how despicable the Bahraini government is. These girls are brought in not just to be flight attendants. They're brought in to be prostitutes. The Khalifas are the epitome of the elite Arab ruling class. Sick people of the worst kind. There's nothing redeeming about any aspect of them. They are just too rich to understand the reality of life. And they are replicated in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, in the United Arab Emirates, and elsewhere. There might be some people who are noble, the exceptions to the rules, but the bottom line is these royal families are all the same. They're all the same. People who claim to be pious Muslims, and yet they fly to London, and as halfway there, they take off all their clothes. They'll come back and pretend that they're all pious. If you come from the causeway from Bahrain to Saudi Arabia, as you enter Saudi Arabia, you'll see a plethora of small mosques. And these mosques are built by pious Saudi men who, coming across, realize the sins they have committed. And so they absolve themselves by building these small mosques and say, I am now repented, I am clean, I am pure, till the next trip to Bahrain. Bahrain is a den of excessiveness. But the population is majority Shia, and they hate the Khalifa family. They hate the Khalifa family. As Iran is bombing the Muharraq facility, Fifth Fleet, and starting to bomb targets in Manama, the Shia are in the streets cheering. We may get regime change in Bahrain. The Saudis are sort of worried about what's going to happen in the eastern provinces, because that's where the bulk of their oil production is, but it's also provinces dominated by a Shia majority population. Israel dropped 6 bombs on Tehran, killing Ali Khamenei. Do you think the Shia of Saudi Arabia are just going to sit there and say, that's okay? Do you think the Catholic of the world would say, that's all right, you killed the Pope? No problem. We'll vote for another one. We'll wait for the smoke to emerge from the chimney. No, there'll be outrage, people rising up. So there may be more regime change. These Gulf Arab states who encouraged this war as a mechanism of getting rid of the Iranian government, the Islamic government, so that they could betray their people by fully embracing the Abraham Accords, which would elevate Israel into the supreme economic power of the Middle East. If they lose, and they're going to lose, they may feel a backlash from their people presents the end of these disgusting regimes. So, who knows? We may get lucky here and emerge this time in 6 months to see that these corrupt, disgusting Gulf Arab sheikdoms and royal.
Scott, I think I lost your connection. Are you there?
I think the Saudis just jammed our signal, so I need to stop talking about it.
You were just saying the Saudi oil sheikdoms continue. I think we lost the last part of that.
No, I'm just saying that this regime change swords cuts both ways, and I think you're seeing a lot of fear now in everywhere. I mean, I was interviewing Nafal yesterday on X. He was just an Israeli apologist of the worst sort, but he was sitting there doing his Israeli apologist thing. When I reminded him that Dubai was a target, they would never attack Dubai. I said, yeah, they would. They're going to attack Dubai. And as we spoke, Dubai was being attacked, and you suddenly saw the look on his face. He went, this shit just got real. Yeah. And that's the same look that's on the face of the various sheiks. This shit just got real. And they're sitting there looking at it going, they're attacking us. And the people on the streets are loving it because these sheiks are not well loved at all. They live this excessive lifestyle. They're elitists. They abuse their power, their authority. And now people are looking out, realizing how fallible they are because they're not all powerful. They're not all strong. And the Iranians are taking them down. And there are significant Shia populations. Again, I don't know how they're going to respond, but I would just imagine that when you kill the second important person in the Shia faith, don't expect the people to rise up in the streets and pop corks of champagne.
No. And maybe just to close with your final thoughts, I just want to show people exactly the kind of things you are talking about. We're talking about just one day, Scott, and I just want people to know that Israel has absolutely taken it, because there's a lot of people out there, Scott, that don't believe anything is going on, that Israel has not taken any hit. This is one day of a country that is saying it's fighting, it can fight for years, experiencing this kind of damage. And here's the damage done to Beit Shemesh, I think you were talking about earlier, Scott, and their body bags. And this is going to continue to get worse, it seems like, Scott, because Iran has promised that they have years of this in them. And, and then we have this horrific, I don't know if you saw it, the Israeli FM spokesperson went, I believe this is to Tel Aviv, to show and say Iranians are targeting children, elders, and this is the response he got from the media, which to the credit to whoever asked this. Here we go.
So schoolgirls in Iran that are being killed in a strike at there.
This must stop. This must be stopped, and this is what we're trying to do. Yes, next question, please.
Just completely. I mean, like literally somebody just in front of a building that has been blown out by Iranian fire asked the question. This is who the U.S., this is who the Trump administration, people like Lindsey Graham, this is who they're supporting. This is they're one and the same here.
Danny, Gaza.
Yeah, exactly.
Gaza. Why are we surprised? Why do we even think there's an iota of humanness in the Israeli government? These are despicable, genocidal maniacs. And if you're not Jewish, they view you as goyim. They say it. I'm not out here spouting anti-Semitic tropes. They say it. You are inferior to us. We are the chosen ones. God has given us the right to greater Israel. Hell, Michael Huckabee said that. He agrees with that. Tucker Carlson's interview with him the other day. Why do we expect anything different from these people? No. These are horrible human beings. These are people who slaughtered tens of thousands of Palestinian children. In Rajab, never forget her name, but she's just one of thousands that the Israelis mowed down, massacred. Israeli snipers would print T-shirts bragging about how they shot a pregnant Palestinian woman because he got 2 for the price of 1. They would wound a Palestinian mother to have the child come out to try and rescue and kill the child in front of the mother. So the child bled out in front of the mother who was bleeding out. So the last thought in the mother's mind was her dying child. That's the sickness of these people. And so what, we're supposed to pretend that somehow, this poor Israeli spokesperson was confronted with, very difficult. No, he's a murderous sack of crap. They all are. They all are. There are no innocents in Israel at this point in time. If you didn't believe in this, you would have left. But if you stay in Israel and plant your flag in Israel, you are buying into greater Israel, which means you're buying into the concept of Zionist supremacy, which is an excuse for all host of sins, including the murder of Palestinians and the ongoing murder of Iranians.
Yeah. And I think very well said, Scott. We had a lot of questions from the audience. How about I just ask you one? You can answer as quick, or two, and you can answer
as many as you want.
All
I'm
right,
in a combative mood, so bring it on.
Well, here's an interesting question, Scott, given all that we've talked about. What needs to happen for the pro-Pahlavi Iranians to overthrow the current government? What do you have to say to this, Scott?
Well, understand that when you say pro-Pahlavi, and you're talking about basically the son of Reza Shah Pahlavi, the last Shah of Iran, and Reza Pahlavi, first of all, he can't overthrow anything. What he is reliant upon is the United States and Israel to create conditions in which a sufficient number of people within Iran rose up and took matters in their own hands. This is the president's own game plan. And so, right now, Pahlavi, through the Israelis, has been able to infiltrate certain cells of opposition throughout Iran, so that at any given demonstration, there's a handful of people who suddenly unveil the Iranian monarchist flag, the flag of Iran with the lion there with the sword, and shout things like "Death to Khamenei" and "Long live the Shah" and all this stuff. And then they quickly put those away and run away because they can't stay there for too long, because the Iranian security service will come in, knock them on the head, and pull them away. But they do this, they film it, and then they broadcast it out, so idiots like the people in the chat can go, "Oh look, the Shah is very popular in Iran." He's not. There's no chance whatsoever. There's a reason why Donald Trump won't meet with Reza Pahlavi, because he doesn't want to breathe life into something that has no chance. There is no viable constituency inside Iran. When the embassy was taken over in 1979, the students that took it over got a hold of the CIA vault. The CIA had been frantically shredding documents, and they were using, I think, 1/8 inch shredders, not crosscut, single straight line shredders, and they put them in these bags, and they didn't have a chance to burn the bags. So the students got them. And then they had the greatest student project in the history of student projects. They all sat down and they pulled these strips out one by one, and they lined them up and they taped them together, and they reconstituted the documents, and then they published these books. And it is a condemnation of the role played by the CIA empowering Reza Shah Pahlavi, the Shah, the complicity between the CIA and the excesses of Savak in torture Iranian people. And this book has been read by every Iranian. They all know the truth. And you really think for a moment that the Iranian people that live in Iran want to return to this? The Reza Pahlavi has a constituency in the Iranian diaspora here in the United States. People today whose parents fled the Islamic Revolution because they were complicit in the crimes of Reza Shah Pahlavi. They came to the United States. They've established themselves as business people here, and they live the fantasy of first of all, they've whitewashed the time of the Shah. I mean, their defense of the Shah is to show us pictures of women in Iran in the mid-1970s. Iranian women are good-looking women. There's no doubt about that. You put them in a mini skirt and boots and Western-style hair, and you're like, wow, they're all like, Raquel Welch's running around, Persian Raquel Welch's. And they're saying, this is the glory of Iran.
Scott, we lost you at "This is the glory of Iran." Sorry, are you still there?
Now I've pissed off the Iranian women in diaspora, so they're jamming us too. But my point is the simplicity of the argument here to sit there and defend the horrific excesses, criminal excesses of Reza Shah Pahlavi by showing a bunch of hot Iranian women in miniskirts. It just shows how stupid people are. The Iranian people know the truth about this, and there will never be a moment when the monarchy has any chance. If Reza Pahlavi, let's say hypothetically, the Islamic Republic fell, and there was chaos and the people in the streets demanding an alternative. If he showed up, he'd be killed. He has a 0 life expectancy. Nobody supports him. Nobody believes he's viable. They just need him to serve as a motivating point for people willing to commit violence in his name, because that's all he's good for, is to have a bunch of Iranians in Iran believing in him, murdering other Iranians to create the perception of society out of control.
Yeah. And what you were describing, that tactic of using beautiful looking women to sell this sort of thing, it's very Israeli too. This is what Israel does all the time.
That's what they do.
It's, which again, that's only further insult to the Iranian people. So here is another question. I think this is a good one. We've seen multiple regime changes in the Arab-speaking world, Iran being the latest target. What's the end game here? I don't understand the why for all this death and destruction.
The end game is Greater Israel. There's the why. That's it, Greater Israel. The goal is to collapse any notion of sovereignty, any notion of Arab self-governance, any notion of Arab respect, and replace it with a region that is totally subordinated to Greater Israel. There's your goal. There's your objective. Iran was the thing standing in the way. Iran was 90 million believers that said that, Iran is the only nation. It's just amazing. The Persians of Iran, in their constitution required to support a free and independent Palestinian state. It's part of their constitution. Persians, non-Arabs. And the Arab world is governed by leaders who have abandoned the Palestinians, who have sold out to Israel. The king of Jordan, if there was any justice, would be dragged through the streets of Amman and hung upside down like Mussolini so the collective population could spit on his corpse. He's sold out. He's betrayed the cause of his people, this last of the Hashemites. He's betrayed the cause of his people. He's betrayed himself. He stands for nothing. He is literally the definition of sellout. The Saudis are the same way, talking big in one way, meeting with the Iranians, shaking hands, saying, no, we're friends and brothers, and then telling Donald Trump in the background, kill them, kill them, kill them. The same thing with the United Arab Emirates. I love the umbrage. Why are you attacking us? Because you have encouraged the United States to kill them, kill them, kill them. You are complicit in the crimes of the Israelis because you are secretly the allies of Israel. You believe in the Abraham Accords. You believe in the empowerment of Greater Israel. That's what's going on
here. Yeah, great point, Scott. Here's a member for 14 months. Thank you, Kevin. Please advise what's going on with Iranian missile defense provided by Russia and China. Are they working or not? Are they being used? Scott, any insight into this?
Again, I don't know enough to be definitive about this. I would just say the following. Missile defenses are not standalone systems. They have to be integrated. If Iran started receiving advanced Chinese and Russian missile defenses, they're not integrated at this point in time. There is not an integrated air defense network. You might have nodes of protection. First of all, Iran is a very big country. Question, why do Ukrainian drones roam freely in the interior of Russia? Because Russia's a big ass country that you can't, have levels of air defense throughout. Once you break through that initial screen, there are nodes that you can maneuver around and then hit your target. Iran is a very big country. They have screens. They have places where they've put air defense, but there's much of it that you can't defend against. And again, please have respect. I know people, the I hate America, spirit is out there. At least put your thinking cap on. What do you think we've been doing with the $1 trillion we spend on defense every year? I know we line the pockets of defense industrialists and congressmen, but some of this money actually gets spent building weapons that are pretty damn good. And we put it in the hands of men and women who are highly trained on how to use these weapons. And they train in realistic fashion. And the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Navy trains extensively on what's known as suppression of enemy air defense. We train for it 24/7, and the U.S. intelligence community is very good at collecting this information. You don't think for a second that the Russians provided S-400s to Turkey and S-400s to India, and the CIA hasn't gotten the complete package of information about how that system works, brought it back, and we've replicated it, we've been training against it. You don't think that's been happening with the S-300? You don't think that's been happening? You don't think that when Iran provided some of the most advanced air defense systems to Syria as part of the agreement with Bashar al-Assad, when Syria fell, you don't think the CIA ran in there with their technical exploitation teams and grabbed this stuff and brought it out? What the hell do you think I did for a living for a while, guys? Okay, I know what I'm talking about when I say this stuff. We're pretty damn good. It doesn't mean the cause that we're fighting for is good or supportable, but we're pretty damn good. All the people out there saying America can't fight, you don't know anything about America. We have the most capable military in the world, carrying out one of the most unsupportable, evil plans. You know, it's not the military's fault that the idiots thought it was a good idea to put 6 bombs on Ali Khamenei's residence. They just obeyed their orders, you know, but they had the munitions and the capability to do it, and they did it. Why aren't the Iranian air defenses working? Because we're better than Iran in this case. But the Iranians don't need their air defense to work. I remind people, we blew away the Iraqi integrated air defense network on day 1 of the Gulf War. Blew it away. And we were running around dropping bombs all over. And yet, we didn't destroy anything because the Iraqis were better at moving stuff out of buildings than we were at blowing up the buildings. And
right, Scott. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I've heard too that that's part of Iran's strategy as well with their mobile systems, is to move them faster than they can be hit.
And they use decoys, extensive decoys. When you take a look at the images coming out, I mean, I remember during the Gulf War, I went to RR. And that's where Delta Force and Task Force 160 were, the Night Stalkers were based out of, doing their counter scud operations. And I had seen a strike video put out by the Night Stalkers of them strafing what looked like a scud launcher. And I'm looking at the video and I go, no, this is off this is a decoy. But I told the guys, I said, you got to be careful, because if this was an actual scud, loaded up, fueled, and you were that close shooting, had it blown up, you'd be dead. You wouldn't be here today. The secondary would have engulfed you in flames. And that you just saw, their eyes go, oh yeah, you're right. Maybe we'll do this different next time. But my point is, you look at some of the strike video of what the Israelis are putting out there, destroying things that look like missiles, and many of these are decoys. I'm here to tell you right now that if it's daytime and a missile sitting there all by itself in the open, lined up, and you don't see, indications of immediate launch, it's a decoy. And if I'm a targeter and I see a missile with the line up, I don't bother sending an aircraft there unless it can get there within 5 minutes, because if it's a real missile, it'll fired and be gone by then. That's the standard. 5 to 7 minutes show up, 5 to 7 minutes having launched and gotten out of there. That's a standard from the Gulf War. It's a standard today. It's a good standard. If you can raise that missile and launch it in 5 minutes, you'll probably live. So if we're detecting a raised missile and we don't have an asset that can hit it in 5 minutes, we're not going to kill it, and don't waste the asset. Because if we get there in 15 minutes and it's still raised, it's a decoy, and therefore they've tickled the system. So a lot of the targets being hit are decoy targets. Some I've met based upon the secondary explosion and the immediate proximity of people who looked like they were preparing for a launch were probably the real thing, which implies that we have an ongoing sweep taking place over the launch areas. But none of this is taking the Iranians by surprise. There will be casualties. That's just war. But the Iranians are playing the odds. The Iranians are playing the odds that using enough decoys, let's say I want to do a launch operation. Again, I'm just using what the Iraqis would do. They want to do a launch operation. They will set in place fixed decoys, and then they will do mobile decoy operations that are designed to divert resources away. And while we're playing games down here, over here, 2 missiles come out and fire against Iraq. And by the time we get there, they're gone. That's just the way this game is played. And this is what the Iranians are doing, in my opinion, is that they know where they want to launch. And what they do is they set up conditions. And some of these may be sacrificial. They may be telling guys, go out there. Your job is to get attention. Be obvious, raise the missile, pretend to have a malfunction, hang around there because we need them to divert to you so these guys can fire the 2 missiles against Israel. And we're talking about a nation of people who embrace martyrdom, because, if I told 2 Marines, all right, guys, here's your job.
Yeah.
You're going to get in this decoy. You're going to drive in the middle of the desert. You're going to raise the decoy, run around, do jumping jacks and push-ups until they bomb you and kill you. They look at me and go, what? No. That's not a good plan, boss. We don't want to do that. But the Iranians are like, you mean we get to join Ali and Hussein in heaven as martyrs? Oh, hell yeah. How can I sign up for that mission? So, they're very effective. I think, again, we're not as good as we think we are. We're very good in terms of the weapons we have, et cetera, but you target based upon a fundamental understanding of the enemy. We lack any fundamental understanding. We've allowed ourselves to be infected by the stupidity of Adams and Laura, what God, I can't remember it. Loomis?
Loomer. You keep manifesting her into the show.
Because she's just stupid. And I want people to recognize how stupid she is. And but the point is, we've allowed ourselves to be infected with this psychosis, and as a result, we don't respect our enemy. And the moment you stop respecting your enemy is the moment you've lost the war. Even in Vietnam, the people that fought the Viet Cong, they may have used derogatory terms, Charlie, Kong, zippers, whatever. Yeah. They never stopped respecting them, because the moment they disrespected Charlie kicked their ass. And I had my colonel fought the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong, and there was no love lost between him and them because they killed a lot of his Marines. He killed a lot of them, but never once did he have anything but the utmost respect for his opponent, his enemy, as a fighting force. He respected their professionalism, which meant that he had to work double time, triple time to make sure that what he was asking his Marines to do could defeat the enemy that was in front of him. But the moment you disrespect them, well, they're nothing, they're this, they're that, you walk into the ambush. Have you seen that movie, Kingdom of Heaven? Where the Crusaders march out to fight Saladin, God is with us, and they march out into the famous battle where basically the Saracen army sucked them in, no water, nothing, in the heat in their armor, and then basically annihilated them. Because the Crusaders lost respect for their enemy. They didn't understand what was going on. And I think that's what's happening here. We have a military that's being ill-advised by intelligence. They don't respect their enemy. They're denigrating their enemy. And as a result, we go off and do things, and we are falling into traps. I think a lot of the counter-missile campaign that's being run today is one giant trap set by the Iranians, who know us better than we know them. And one of the proof that this is the case is the fact that they continue to launch missiles. They're launching missiles and they're hitting targets, and they're not going to quit. And until we recognize that, until we change, my whole thing during the Gulf War is to try and get us to change what we were doing, because I was saying what we're doing is wrong. What we're doing is not killing Scuds. What we're doing is doing exactly what the Iraqis want us to do, and they will continue to launch missiles. If we want to interdict the Iraqis, we have to change things. And I was arrested by that. General Schwarzkopf arrested me for daring to speak out like that, because I was trying to create my own war and do all this kind of stuff. But I was right. We never stopped the Iraqi Scud launches because we had bought into our own simplistic analysis of who the Iraqis were and what the Iraqis were, and we never once gave them credit for doing innovative things. And I think that right now, Donald Trump is out there, and yet when you have Pete Hegseth benching 315 pounds, standing up and spitting out testosterone and saying, oh, we can do this, God wills it. And everybody goes out there and says, God's will, we can do it, without somebody sitting there going, hey, what about this, that, and the other thing? No, can you bench press 315? No, I'm too busy doing analytical work. You thin-armed, skinny-necked geek, get out of my way. I only want real men who can bench 315 pounds out here doing real manly stuff. And then they get sucked into a trap and they all die.
Yeah. 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 I mean, you mentioned earlier, Scott, somebody wanted to ask the question if there's any news, because there have been news about Iran now targeting the USS Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
We don't know anything really.
You're not going to sink the Lincoln right now. First of all, the Lincoln is way the hell out there. So the Iranians,
isn't it like all the way out, like 1,000 kilometers or something close to that?
So far, that their air wing is not really a factor in this war as of yet.
Yeah.
I mean, they've taken themselves out of the fight, literally, because they're scared. But what the Iranians are doing is probing. They're sending out drones, trying to collect intelligence, see if they can get a visual or at least identify the various elements out there. Because as we, again, the Chinese are photographing the fleet in real time, and they're providing that real-time linkage. So it's not like the Iranians have to say, where's the fleet? But they need to know where the fleet is right now. Because if you're going to launch this attack, it's got to go through layers of defense. And so what you need to do is send a drone out there that is getting detected by radars. And as it's being detected by radars, it's capturing that signal and sending that signal back to either the Chinese or to the Iranians on what kind of radars are out there, the frequency, where they're located, et cetera. And you start building this map of the layered defenses to the Abraham Lincoln. And once you get enough of that data, you find the seam and you fire the missiles into the seam and you hope for the best. But we're talking about firing at long range. One of the things that's happened, though, is one of the key elements of our missile defense shield in the region is this advanced radar that was located in other day, $1 billion radar, part of an early warning system to detect missiles on launch. It doesn't exist anymore because Iran took it out. Now, this was primarily geared towards detecting launches against Israel. If the Iranians are going to fire on the Abraham Lincoln, they're going to be.
Uh-oh. Scott, it seems like you said if they're going to fire on the Abraham Lincoln, and that was the last thing we heard.
I guess I shouldn't get into a tactical discussion because the U.S. government will take umbrage. But but the point is, if the Iranians are going to fire against the Abraham Lincoln, they're going to do so from a location in the south of Iran, closer to where the Abraham Lincoln is. So yes, they've put drones out there, but these drones are reconnaissance drones. They're not really attacking. When they attack the Abraham Lincoln, if they attack the Abraham Lincoln, they will do so using hypersonic missiles with maneuvering warheads that are programmed to shoot the seam in the radars and have a good chance, a better than even chance of hitting the Abraham Lincoln.
Thanks. Yeah, Scott, I know your time is limited and you have been very generous. There was a question about your thoughts on the China's responses to this conflict. You did go over that a bit. And then I'm going to pull up some nice comments as you're talking in the last 30 seconds or so, because a lot of audience members,
I don't need
a lot of audience members came out and
I know I see them and I appreciate them and thank you. China and Russia, I think, are going to be looking for diplomatic off ramps to try and avoid the escalation of this conflict into economic devastation. They want to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. They want to prevent the targeting of oil fields because that's it. And they want to keep. I had this discussion with someone else too. Russia's goal is not to see the United States weakened or collapsed. Russia doesn't want that. Russia wants a strong America. Is about the Russian goal is consistency and predictability, and they want to be able to project that out. A collapsing America is not consistent, it's chaotic, and it's not predictable, and it's a very dangerous situation. So Russia's not looking for America to be defeated here. What they're looking for is a viable diplomatic off-ramp that can preserve Iran as a sovereign state, a member of BRICS, and with a functioning economy that can be plugged into a Eurasian Economic Union.
We lost you at Eurasian Economic Union.
I can't say European Economic Union or Eurasian Economic Union. Apparently that irritates the
it's haram to
the, yeah, it's haram. But I think China right now, they did what they could do to strengthen Iran's defenses. But their goal right now, together with Russia, is stability, stability, stability. And the key to that is not just the survival of Iran, but the continued viability of the global energy-based economy. And to do that, you need to ensure that, a part of the world that produces 25% of the world's oil and gas resources isn't destroyed in the process. And so I believe China and Russia are making phone calls behind the scenes like crazy, especially to the Iranians, cautioning, saying, look, we will provide you intelligence. We will do what you need to do to keep targeting these targets that you're going after. I hope that's not a sign of having an on-air stroke, but okay, it was just an eye blowing up on me.
Yeah, please, no.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. But so the Iranians, the Chinese are in the posture like with the Russians to make Iran as strong as possible, but not to create the conditions for a war that is devastating on the global scale from an economic standpoint. So I think the Chinese are playing that role. It's a frustrating role for those people who support Iran, but understand this, that China needs Iran to survive. Iran is part of BRICS, a very important part of BRICS. And if the United States succeeds in removing Iran from BRICS, that is a fatal blow to BRICS.
Yeah, and Iran, as you said, Russia and China, Iran also doesn't want those things too. So they also don't want
correct.
The economic.
Correct.
Yeah,
Iran is
and
not
that is important.
In the suit, although, as our good friend Professor Mohammad Marandi has said, a world without Iran is not a world worth living in. Meaning that Iran isn't just going to sit by and let the United States and Israel destroy Iran. That if Iran's going down, everybody's going down with them.
Yeah, I mean, they're already closing. The Strait of Hormuz is not officially closed, but they're. I mean, we're talking about Iran is showing that it's not going to hesitate if it needs to do that.
So it's the goal of China and Russia to ensure that Iran's not pushed into that corner. Exactly. And so as this war continues to go south, there are rumors that Trump has already been confronted by the reality that we're not achieving the objectives we wanted to achieve, and that he went through the Italians to reach out to the Iranians for a ceasefire. I can't say that I know this to be 100% case, but there's a rumor out there. If that's true, these are the windows of opportunity that Russia and China are looking for, because once you get that initial outreach, they're going to take that and run with it and keep that as a possibility, keep pushing the Iranians and working with the Iranians to achieve an outcome that, doesn't create the conditions for a resumption of this conflict, but an outcome also that doesn't humiliate the United States to the point where we have to see this thing through to its horrific end, to find a safe, face-saving mechanism out for Donald Trump. I think that's the goal right now of the Russians and the Chinese, is to find a face-saving off-ramp for the United States and Israel.
Well, Scott, we got to get you out of here. We got to get out of here. I want to say that this was one of my favorite conversations. We got to get you on more to cover this horrific war that the U.S. and Israel are waging right now. I want to make sure everybody knows to go to the video description and support your work, your website /Substack, as well as places to support your work monetarily are also there.
Yeah, if I can just make it an appeal.
Sure.
I'm going to Russia next month, if the United States government lets me. And it's a very ambitious program. I can't give away too much of it in advance, but one of it will deal with the role that Islam plays in the world today. It's a very important project. And if people wanted to support this, then you could go to my Substack, scottritter.com. And there's a donation page, and I can promise you any donations you make will be used to pursue this project. And it's become more important today than ever before, because when I first conceived it, we didn't have the reality of this existential conflict in Iran. That is, a large part of it is based on a misunderstanding of the Islamic faith and a perversion of the Islamic faith. And so now I've spoken to the people that I'm working with, and they too agree that this project that we had, which could have been sort of a minor project of interest, peripheral interest, has a potential of actually becoming a mainstream discussion about the reality of Islam, the compatibility of Islam with the rest of the world. And, this is the kind of healing approach we need, because one day this war with Iran will end. And when it ends, how do we live with the Iranians? How do we begin the process of healing the wounds that we have inflicted? And so I don't say I have the answers. What I say is I'm on a journey to find the answers. And anything that you could do to help me on this journey, we greatly appreciate it. I'm an independent journalist. I don't allow anybody to pay for anything while I'm in Russia at all, even though legally I'm allowed to. I mean, there is an open license that says as a journalist, I can have people pay for my airfare, pay for my hotel, and pay for expenses. So I could go over there easily. And believe me, I have a whole bunch of people over there who would love to pay for all these things. But I only survive as an independent journalist by saying I'm under the control of nobody but myself. I have to work with them and all that, but these are my ideas. These are my standards, my messages, and I pay for it. I'm in control of the product. Nothing gets published that hasn't been approved by me and had been done by me. But this can only happen because, unfortunately, I'm not a independently wealthy person. I'm not Tucker Carlson with his multi-million-dollar.
Right.
I'm a middle-class American who's basically punching above my weight, so to speak, financially. And I can only do these things with the support of the people out there who think this work is supportable. So for the people that don't like me, I don't care. But for the people that do like me, if you would like to see this project go forward, and it is going forward. We've already met the initial threshold. But as you know, Danny, there are enhancements that can be brought to bear, things that you can do production-wise or things you can do in terms of expanding the scope of collection on the ground that can only happen if you have money. And so we're going to make this happen, but if you want to help me enhance it, go to the donation page and donate. I really would appreciate it. And I think you're going to appreciate it too when we come back with this, what I think is going to be a very impressive program.
Yeah, everyone, you could definitely check out Scott's website. I also put the donation link before the show started directly, so you can definitely assist directly. You don't even need to do 2 clicks, just 1. But without further ado, everybody, we're going to head out of here. Scott's got a busy schedule today on this Sunday. I just reviewed it. So let me say, yeah. I was like, oh, God, you have a 12 o'clock. Right, we got 2 minutes.
Rest, but I'm going straight from here to something else.
Oh, my gosh. Definitely get a stretch. Okay, hit the like button, everyone. I'll be back tomorrow morning, same time. I'll let you know who's on for these daily updates. Video description to find Scott's, to support Scott and to support this channel, Patreon, Substack, and more. Thank you, everyone. Super Chats, members, everything. I really appreciate it, but we're out of here for today. See you tomorrow, 10 a.m.